We're at the Enermax booth now at Computex 2019. This one's going to be a little bit rough, not for me. We'll start with the good stuff. So this is a new pump design. It's a dual chamber pump. This comes after some of the concerns about like the TR4 pump and corrosion, which I did talk to them about that. So I have some news on why that was happening and how Enermax thinks they have fixed it. We'll also be talking about some cases that could use a little bit of work, and then we'll let's start with the good thing though. Before that, this video is brought to you by Thermaltake's Ring Duo 12 radiator fans. The Ring Duo 12 fan kit comes with 3 ARGB 120mm fans with a controller, and each fan equipped with 18 LEDs and a diffuser for a glowing color inside of the fan ring, with fluid color changes when cycling through the color spectrum. The fans are made for use on radiators and use hydraulic bearings for long lifespan, rated at 40,000 hours for the fan. The fans have an RPM range of 500 to 1500, giving the ability to quiet down the fans under low load or boost them for heavy workloads. The Ring Duo 12s are available now. Learn more at the link in the description below. So the pump, this is a new design. They're trying to get a patent on it, or may already be patented. Dual chamber, pretty straightforward. So plain English, it's got 2 chambers. The inlet, as illustrated by this giant cross section, which is actually pretty sweet, and really appreciate them doing this. Inlet's over here. It drops in sort of towards, by this illustration, it drops in like at the outer edge of the cold plate. By that one, it drops in the center. They've told me the center, so I think maybe the cross section is the inaccurate bit, but either way, in theory, the water's supposed to come down the middle somehow. I think it drops in here and like hits the upper chamber and then flows over and then drops down this hole. There's a hole in the cross section in the middle. So chamber 1 flows in, falls down to the micro fins. And then chamber 2 is the top part. So you've got the electromagnet and motor of the actual pump up top. And then underneath it is where the impeller sits. So that would be obviously the spinning bit. So yeah, new pump design. It's already on the Aquafusion, so they have a 120 to 240 here. It's supposed to be on the LickTech 2, I think. And then the older coolers obviously don't have this. As for the LickTech TR4, the first one, so we did that video disassembling hours and showing some corrosion in it, some gunk buildup, stuff like that. And the issue was we thought potentially like either a disintegration of the gasket or a corrosion or a lack of biocide or something like that. We've heard a few theories about it. We actually had one of you in our audience email us, I think someone who works at like a government agency or something, and offer to send like over a dozen of these. So we're gonna do some failure analysis when we get home. But first things first, I guess, if you have an issue with the TR4 cooler, then Enermax is replacing them for free under RMA, and if they try to charge you shipping, let us know and we'll fight it for you. But you're supposed to be able to get a free replacement, which is good, so they're taking the right steps there. The downside is that obviously there was a failure to begin with. So we spoke to an engineer from another company who has a theory about it, and we spoke with Enermax. The engineer from the other company thinks that there's a zinc contamination in the liquid that's being used to sort of like, I don't know, to join with the coolant, so to like distill it down or something. So that's his theory, and thinks that the zinc is encountering a chemical reaction with the propylene glycol, causing the contamination to build. What Enermax thinks is that the vacuum seal for the original cooler was built for the smaller pumps, and so it wasn't built for the larger TR4 pump. So with the TR4-2 design, that's supposed to be solved. So if you have the issue on TR4-2, let us know. We'll look into it. But it's supposed to be fixed. So yeah, that's the story. So it's potentially a vacuum seal issue is what it comes down to. But that'll walk us through the coolers. The pump is the new thing. It's a dual chamber design, like I said, coming out on these coolers on the table here. And let's talk about the cases next. And I guess as a brief interjection, there are some square fans. So there's square ARGB or Square GB, I guess is the name. So there's square design. There's a 200, there's a 120, there's a 140. They've got blackouts over there. I think there's a couple of white ones. And then that's the new fan. But let's go take a look at the cases and see what they have for ATX and micro ATX. So there's a couple cases here. There's this one, which is the ATX. There's another ATX. There's a micro ATX. And we'll start with the IG50. So this is the one that I mostly want to point out. There's 2 different panels for it. There's a glass, and then there's a mesh panel, which is good. I'm really glad that they showed this to me because Achtung, was machst du? So we've encountered 2 extreme overclockers today. Stepanzi, who stole the mic from me, in the in-win video, and then Der Bauer. And I guess I'll link him below. He's just trying to get free links to his channel, I think, by appearing in the videos. Anyway, IG50. So it's an ATX case. It's supposed to be $110, Q4 for the launch target. It's got two 200mm fans pre-installed in the front, ARGB, and then it has two 200 slots on the top, not pre-installed, so you have to buy those with a slot in the back for 120 or 140, and vertical GPU mount, all that stuff. It's a new tooling. So this hasn't been used on previous Enermax cases. No fan on the power supply shroud, but there are, I think you could maybe mount an SSD there, but no fan on it. So obviously, points of discussion. Let me show this first. This wasn't shown to me until I started making a lot of suggestions, I guess, is the best way you could phrase it. But so this is a prototype. It's a mesh panel. What I need you to do is help me convince Enermax that people prefer this over the glass option. So mesh panel, it's got a dust filter on it. It is a prototype. I don't know if it's going to have, like this case will have a SKU that ships with it or not. Not sure. I think it'll probably depend on the response, like to this video and others. But if it does, then, well, you've got an H500P scenario, like the original one, where it ships with a panel that's extremely restrictive to the point of being terrible, to being actually pretty good for airflow. So obviously, you know, the concern is you've got a couple holes up here. It is a plastic panel. You probably have like 5% exposure to air, and then the fans are actually on the outside of the chassis instead of recessed. So they're pressed all the way against the glass. 200mm fans are low static pressure. They have a lot of trouble pulling air through something that's impeding them. So anything with any kind of, impedance or restriction to airflow, it chokes it off a lot worse than like a 120 where it's got higher static pressure to overcome that kind of issue. So anyway, my complaint was obvious. You know, you've got glass panel 200s, and it's literally the H500P all over again, except even a worse intake on the side. So it was good to see that this is a potential option, and I hope this is the one that they choose. Because you don't even have to retool the panel. So that's the good thing, is that the glass here, it's not like it's too late. The glass is just like maybe glued in or something. I think it's glued. It's pretty standard to do that. It looks like it's glued to the inner wall of the front plastic panel. So in theory, you can just not use the glass and then put in a mesh instead, and they've already got the tooling for that. So that's what I hope to see for the IG50. Enermax does have a lot they can improve on with this case, but it looks like they have the right idea. So next one, well, I shouldn't say that. It looks like they might have the right idea if they do this. It's still expensive at $110, and it'll be competing with like the H500 non-P, non-M. So H500 from Cooler Master at about $100. That's probably the primary competition. That's a really good case. So I kind of take that back. I don't know that they do have the right idea, but I hope I've given them the right idea, because we talked a lot about this case and the improvements that could be made. The marble, I think you all likely know what I think of this front panel. It's a problem. So this is the MS30, this is the MS20. For the fans, it's got 3 120 options in the front, 120 in the rear. Actually, I'll talk after this booth. We'll shoot a separate segment somewhere else, and I'll talk more openly. But yeah, 120s back. No 140 support on the Micro ATX, or actually on the ATX. Micro ATX, it doesn't have a lot of representation at the show. So I've only seen one other Micro ATX case this year, and this is one of two. So if you like Micro ATX and you hate air, then you could get this. Maybe there'll be a mesh version, who knows. This one is supposed to be $60 for the MS30, $50 for the MS20, and there's gonna be white and black versions. We have a video of both, 120 or 140 support, and I think the ATX for the front, and Micro ATX also supports 140 in the front. In the last case, actually there's two more. There's one behind me, that's the Equilence for Japan. So Enermax has gotten some awards in Japan, I'm told, and apparently they've decided to make an Equilence model for Japan that's got a gold wrap on it, like a wallpaper. So there's a gold wallpaper on the Equilence. It's supposed to be a $1,000 case, up from about $100 US for the standard version. It's a limited edition special one. It's got squares of gold that stick on the panel, so it's like a gold foil. And I'll leave that one there, but that's gonna be Japan only launch, and I think limited. The Flex crate DC30s on the other side of the wall here. It's the same structure as the SF30. So if you know that case structure, the chassis, then you know this one already. That's supposed to be Q3. There might be system integrator customization on that, and that would be like your CyberPower, iPower of the world, people like that could customize the panels. They've done some samples of that look kind of cool. $70 target for that, 3 120s front, 120 in the rear, and 2 140s on the top. And like I said, Q3 for that one. So that'll cover the cases. Let's shoot the conclusion elsewhere. Okay, so part of what we do at the shows is a lot of conversation with the manufacturers to say, like, you know, look, this is really disappointing to see. I'm very sad to see that you've learned nothing from last year. And we talk about like genuine concerns versus like GN being pedantic concerns. I try to be realistic about it, and there were some genuine concerns there, a lot of them. And I've had this conversation with the Enermax, I think every year for like 4 PR people now. That's how many they've gone through since we started having this conversation. So I think it's time to just have the conversation on video so that people can see it, and hopefully they feel a bit more pressure to improve. Because I think Enermax, I want to see the companies improve and do good things and do things worth buying. And Enermax is a fairly large company. It's not huge, but big enough, and they can improve. But they're not in a lot of ways. They are in some ways, very small, but not in cases. The Sabre was a great case, but the stuff here today was just not good. And the Marble one, the SM one, I didn't want to keep knocking everything right in front of them, but they'll see the video anyway. But the Marble one, just like absolutely terrible airflow. It's totally tone deaf to the market, and you can still do a cool design without suffocating the case. You could do a side intake if you had to. You could do top intake pre-installed if you had to. You do bottom. There's a lot of stuff you could do and still have a closed off front, but they're not doing it. The next thing, small stuff. So all of the systems, every one of them except for the 200 millimeter system, the first one we talked about, they all had the fans on the radiator in the front were exhaust. The fan in the back was exhaust, and the fans on the top were exhaust. Anyway, so exhaust. There was zero intake anywhere in the, like actually zero. And so you're left with a negative pressure system with no holes anywhere. So there's no way to even bring the air in. So it's going to find its way in through small cracks and side panels. It's going to find a way in through small holes in the bottom. None of that will ever make it to the system. And the thing is, those are just demo system builds. So it doesn't actually matter. Like, you can build the computer your own way, obviously, when you get the case. But the problem is, as I was explaining to Enermax, is that it just makes it look like you have no idea what you're doing. Like, you don't even look like you've ever built a system before. So I asked who built the systems, and they said one of our engineers, which is just extremely disappointing if that's true. So anyway, I guess it all comes together where, like, some of these things don't matter because you're not going to buy it like that. Some of them matter a lot because it's actually affecting the end product and what you buy. So they all come together, and it creates the appearance of a company that's completely tone deaf to the industry, oblivious to what they're doing, has no idea how to even build a computer with a fan orientation properly. And I'm sure some people at this company do, of course, but that presentation was terrible. So the cases have a lot of room for improvement. The IG50, as an example, is the only one that's even remotely promising because there's a prototype mesh panel that was only shown to me after I asked for a case PM. They brought them over, and then I explained the issues for like 10 minutes, and then it was shown to me. So Enermax seemed like they were listening. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. I hope maybe this video convinces people at like HQ higher up that there's a problem. Like, Enermax has a lot it needs to improve on, and this show just made them look incompetent, frankly. So anyway, very disappointed in the booth. And I don't like doing negative show coverage because, like, a lot of the time stuff is prototypes and we're happy to see them. But this stuff is like now 3 times running, I think, 3 shows where it's just been bad. So the Sabre was the last good thing they showed us. So that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more as always. Go to patreon.com/gamersnexus to help us out directly if you like this type of blatant honesty. And I did share it with them as well, so they're aware. Or store.gamersnexus.net if you want to pick up a shirt like this one. I'll see you all next time.